Dear students, how are you? Hopefully you all are doing well. This is Amit Saha, lecturer, Department of Mathematics, Milestone College. Today our discussion topic is MCQ from chapter 8, that is your static part. This chapter is very important for your HSC examination as well as your admission test. That's why we are very focusing on that chapter very clearly. So let's have a look our today's class. So dear students, according to our lesson plan, today our discussion topic is MCQ from chapter 8. So our first question is the resultant of two forces P and Q acting at any point is 20 Newton, which makes a right angle with the force P. What will be the value of P of the value of force Q, where the value of Q is given, that is 25 Newton. So actually here we have to find the value of P, but here there is given a thing, that is the physical expression of it is given that the resultant will be acting angle of right angle. So say for example we are thinking that this is our actually the force P, and the resultant is actually acting as 90-degree angle with it. So this is our resultant, and the other angle Q, that must be actually going that word. Okay, so in that word it is actually Q. Here question has given that the resultant's value is 20 Newton and the value of Q is 25 Newton. So here if we just draw a parallel line of it in here, so this is actually the force of Q, so it should be the 25 Newton. So that was 20 Newton and that was 25 Newton, so it actually creates a right angle triangle. So from here we can say that this is nothing but the system of, this is 20 square and this is 25 square. So 25 square equals to 20 square plus P square. So what about P square? P square should be 25 square minus 20 square, and it should be root over if we just find the value of P from here. So this is how we can find out these types of problem. And here if we squaring 25 square, then what we will get from here, just calculate this value, you will get an answer, and it is 15. So our the force of P should be 15 Newton. So the answer should be 15 Newton. Since this was the 90-degree angle and this is the actually the other force which is actually creating from that point. So here these two are acting at the same point, but actually here there is create a right angle triangle. So dear students, our next problem is what is the least value of P if the value of the resultant of two equal force having the value of P. That means if there is two force, say for example a force acting in this way, that is P, and another force is also P, and the resultant we have to find. But here the question is, what is the least value of that resultant? What is the least value of that resultant? It should be actually R, we know our formula, that is R min equal P minus Q. Since here both of the actually force are P, so it should be P minus P, that should be 0. So here the answer should be 0. Clear? But if here the question says that what is the least or not, what is the max or what is the maximum value of P if the value of the resultant of two equal force having the value of P, on that time our answer should have been R max, that should be P plus Q. That means P plus P, on that time our answer should have been 2P. So if question says what is the maximum value, on that time it should be added, but if it is minimum value then it should be subtracted from each other. Clear? Okay, now we are going for our next problem. So dear students, the next question is square of the resultant of two equivalence forces acting on a particle is 3 times of the product of them. So the resultant should be 3 times of the product of them. Okay, so the angle between the force will be what? So we need to find the value of the angle, but here what is actually given? The square of the resultant of two equivalence forces. We need to actually let that the equivalence force first. Say for example, our equivalent force is P. So here and here all the forces are, both are the equivalence force, that is P, but the resultant is actually 3 times of the product of them. So first product of it, so P square, and 3 times of it, so it should be our resultant. Okay, so resultant is 3 times of the product of them, that is 3P square. So what is our formula? Our formula is R square equal P square plus Q square plus twice PQ cos alpha. So here actually all the forces are same, so it should be P square plus P square, and R is actually 3P square, and it is 2P into P into cos alpha. So finally we'll get 3P square equals to 2P square plus 2P square into cos alpha. So if we take 2P square as common, or we can also just take it in here, then it should be 3P square minus 2P square, it is 1P square equal to 2P square cos alpha. So P square gone, so cos alpha should be half. Cos alpha should be half, and here we know the value of 60 degree, cos alpha equal cos 60 degree. So here 60 degree should be the answer, because here if in both side cos cancel, so alpha should be 60 degree. So our answer should have been question number B. So first, what actually the question was given, we need to understand it first, that here is given that square of the resultant of two equivalence force, that means that the equal force. So these two are the equal force, and the resultant should be 3 times of the product of them. So it should be the product, so P and P, it is P square 3 times, that is 3P square. And now we need to find out the angle between them. So the angle between them, we can already understand that the angle of them is actually alpha, so we need to find out the value of alpha, and we can find by this way. My dear students, this is a very important MCQ for any types of competitive exam. Okay, so our next MCQ will be seen now. So dear students, this question says that two forces act at a point at the angle of 120 degree. The magnitude of greater force is 10 Newton. The resultant subtend a right angle with the least force. That means when a resultant actually makes a 90 degree angle, that means what? Here is given that our least force is here, least force is given here, it is our least force, and it actually creates an angle with 90 degree, isn't it? It should be 90 degree. So it is actually resultant, so R, and that is our least force. It actually creates an angle of 90 degree, and here it is the biggest force or the largest force. So when these types of question has been coming, here is given an angle between these two as 120. Okay, so this is the greater force, and this is our least force. Okay, so if any question like this, then our shortcut formula we have, the shortcut formula is cos alpha equal minus the least force divided by greatest force. Okay, so cos alpha here, cos 120 degree equal minus least force we don't know, but what is the greater force? Greater force was given, that is 10 Newton. So the least force, it is actually least force, so L force, and here cos 120 is nothing but the minus half equal minus least force by 10. So the answer should be, least force should be, actually 10 will be going there, so it should be 5. So the answer is question number C. So when we have a question, the question generally solved by this way, A should be cos alpha equals to minus q over p, that is the largest by smallest. That is the shortcut formula we'll use on that time if resultant creates an angle of 90 degree with the least force. Clear? Okay, now we'll going for the next part. Dear students, our next math is 5 Newton, 7 Newton, 8 Newton are three forces acting on a body create on equilibrium state. What is the angle between 8 Newton and 5 Newton? So we need to find the angle between that. Okay, but here we need to understand it very clearly that 5, 8 and 7, these three actually forces are in equilibrium. That means if we need to find what? We need to find the angle between 8 Newton and 5 Newton. Since we need to actually find out these two angles, so that means we are thinking about these two, then this will be acting as their resultant. Then what will be the formula of that? On that time we can say this 7 square equals to 8 square plus 5 square plus 2 into 8 into 5 into cos alpha. We need to just find out this value. So if we calculate this, then it should be 49 equal 64 plus 25 plus 80 cos alpha. So it should be cos alpha equal 49 minus 64 minus 25 divided by 80. Because here these two are the plus sign, so it should be minus, and 80 should be the divided of that part. So if we calculate this part, then we will get actually approximately minus half. And we all know that generally cos alpha equals to cos 120 is minus half. So the value of alpha should be what? Exactly, the value of alpha should be 120 degree. So the answer is D. Clear? So here we have understand another thing, that is if three forces acting in different way but they are in the equilibrium part, then if we find out any two angle between any two, so for example we are thinking about find out this angle, then this should be actually acting as the resultant. If we are thinking about not this, maybe that, then since we are thinking about these two, then this will be their resultant. So by that way we can find the value of this. Clear? Okay, so let's have a look our next MCQ part. So dear students, this math is a very interesting math in this section. Here the question says three forces of magnitude 2 Newton, 4 Newton, 6 Newton act simultaneously along three sides of the triangle AB, BC and CA, respectively of the equilateral triangle ABC. Which of the magnitude of the resultant forces? So we need to find out the magnitude of resultant forces. So first of all we have to draw a triangle. That should be actually equilateral triangle, and it should be the name of ABC. And we are thinking that A has working in this way, that is 2 Newton, B has working this way, that is 4 Newton, and CA is working that word, that is 6 Newton. That means if we are just going draw this by that way, that say for example this is going that word, so it is 4 Newton, this is going that word, it was 6 Newton, and that is going that word, that is 2 Newton. So here these forces actually are in equilibrium. We need to find out the resultant of it. So we can find out the resultant of it very easily. We know how to find out that, but for MCQ we have to actually use some shortcuts. For that shortcuts, we have a shortcut that is the difference between this. So difference of the elements here, what is the difference? Here is 2, 4, 6. So 2 to 4 we have 2 difference, and 4 to 6 we have 2 difference. So the difference between the forces, so the difference of forces into how many forces are there. There is actually 3 forces, or how many sides of a triangle. Obviously the sides is 3. So the side of a triangle or side of a force, or the how many forces are there, the number of force you can say also, it should be the number of force. number of force, it should be in root. So it should be the difference of it was 2 and the number of forces was 3. So the answer should be 2 root over 3. That is how we can solve these types of very difficult math with a very shortcut way. So that was a shortcut way, that the difference between the forces, so the difference is 2, 4, 6, that is every time we got 2, and obviously the number of forces was 3. That's why it should be 2 root over 3, and that is our required answer. So dear students, our last problem is 3 forces 1, 2 and root 3 acting at a point are in equilibrium. What is the angle between the last 2 forces? So here we have to actually find the force among or between that two. That means one should be our what? Resultant, because we have already known that if 3 forces are in equilibrium, if we need to find 2 forces angle, then other will be the resultant. So it should be 1 square equals to 2 square plus root 3 whole square plus 2 into 2 into root 3 into cos alpha. So here it is 1 equal 4 plus 3 plus 4 root over 3 cos alpha. Then we get actually 1 minus 7 over 4 root over 3 equal cos alpha. So it should be actually cos alpha equal minus 6 over 4 root over 3. So if we just cutting down, it should be actually minus 2, so it should be 3 and then root over 3 by 2. So what's the value of cos alpha equal minus root 3 by 2? It's exactly, it is actually 150 degree. So alpha equal 150 degree. So this is how we can actually solve these types of problem, because this is nothing but the cos 150 degree. So the answer is 150 degree. This is how we can solve these types of problem. My dear students, I have to actually recall a thing again, that is, if we need to find the angle between these two, then this should be our resultant. We have to just think or memorize this part very clearly. If we need to find an angle between any two, then other will be the resultant. Okay, so this is how we actually solve these types of problems. My dear students, hopefully this lecture is very beneficial for you.